You know, they're gonna pray. They're gonna, you know, they don't mind you praying. Matter of fact, they'll call you, pray for me. but you know, coming to your church, no, you know.
And see, so the challenge then becomes this notion of a standardized Christianity, and that's part of our problem. Part of our problem is we've always sought to make a generic brand of a religious tradition or a faith tradition.
And that wasn't even true in the early Christianity, in which we have, even in the New Testament. Yeah. This is what we are finding out. Right. This class is just finding out now that there were many traditions grounded in the rhetorical tradition.
Yes.
That, you know, the reason why there needed to be a canon or a Bible was because the church felt like it was just too many writings. It was just a group of people were following this, so we were trying to make it a systematized, that this becomes the official religion, and if your book didn't make it, you got to burn it, and if you don't, you're a heretic, and we'll get you. And
but that disregards the fact that Jesus is grounded in a rhetorical tradition.
Right.
Part of the cardinal sin of contemporary Christianity is we don't see Jesus within the framework of the prophetic tradition.
Right.
We like him as a nice little humble, meek and mild priest, Lord and Savior. We love the sacrificial atonement theory. That is the most sacred thing in the black church right now.
Which is so ironic because the early church, or what we just read, the primitive church, called that Jesus fellow the Word, Logos. Meaning rhetorical or persuade or whatever. So I mean language. So if that's you're right. If that's the case, then and what we need to do then is to recapture. And this is my whole point. And what I do with Rhetoric, Race, and Religion, we need to recapture the rhetorical features of religion and begin that process. And by doing so, you are automatically open yourself up to new interpretations, new thought processes, and these interpretations, these thought processes would not be lines of demarcation that we push people away, but it can be more inclusive because now we do have something in common. We all are interpretive beings, and that's the common.
And then that's why I'm gonna pull. See, we finna save G Soul right now. who introduced himself as a backslider? Who introduced himself as a backslider? And I let it slide.
You see a snitch,
right? But the truth of the matter is, and this is why we talk about this all the time, and that's why G in his literary authorship and that platform, there is space and room in the prophetic tradition for all of us. As long as we don't try to, as G was arguing earlier, look at the prophetic tradition as something, as a platform to propel us into some realm of success, material acquisition, cars, cash, cribs, as my pastor would call it, and some other things. So G, you say, brother, you all right?
Literature is prophetic. It's the first prophetic pieces of text.
Right. So look. I hate that we have to wrap all of this up. We can go on all night. And I know your class hates to get out of class early. That's if y'all getting out early. I'm just saying. But
I have material.
Right. So tell us lastly about your recent publications and some of your other publications, and then we'll all talk about what we got going at NCBS, and then we'll have to bid the congregation farewell.
Well. The recent book is The Forgotten Prophet, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner and the African American Prophetic Tradition. And if I were writing it today, right now, I would add a chapter on the radical, the black radical tradition, in which the African American Prophetic Tradition definitely is a part of. And I use the term African American because it is the tradition that is birthed out of the enslaved experience, developed right here in in the West, and in the United States. And it is a tradition that, at least for Turner, is embedded into a Christian tradition. But it's so funny that Turner's Christianity broadens as he grows. And what I try to do in the book is I try to demonstrate how this person could go from in 1866 after the Civil War, let us, forgive and forget, let us all be brothers, and let us show the whites that we are good workers, to hell is an improvement as far as the Negro is concerned. 1907. So the book is a rhetorical history of how one can move from that position, optimistic prophet, to a pessimistic prophet. And I lead the conclusion to hopefully pick up in book 2, because I end in 1895. Turner lives to 1915, so the second volume of this is going to be from 1896 to 1915. That's just going to focus on the pessimistic Turner.
But you also have some books in that series, if you will, about Turner.
And I'm also compiling the works of Turner. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that the reason why these dots are not connected is because we just don't have the primary text. We need the text. And one of the things that I am doing is I'm collecting everything that I can find on Turner and trying to get it published into this series, the Literary Archive. Talking about literary archive of Henry McNeil Turner. And that's what Edwin Mellon Press. That was the press that agreed to publish any and everything that I found on. And we have published 2 volumes already. The first is the African American pastor before and during the Civil War, the American Civil War. The second volume was the same title, but the chaplain letters. Turner was the first African American chaplain of the armed forces. So he wrote copious amounts of letters while he was a chaplain, so we got that. And the third volume should be coming out later on this year, an African American pastor during Reconstruction, where we look at about 86 different writings from 1866 to 1880. And we're still trying to find a publisher for the speeches, the annotated, footnoted speeches of Turner, volumes 1 and 2. Turner wrote so much, and it's going to take a lifetime to get this out, but this is my goal. Just a labor of love trying to put this out, and hopes that people will pick it up and begin to read Turner and begin to see the critical edge that Turner brings, even early Turner. But then when you get to later Turner is doing some funky stuff. He's the first one that talks about the language, here in America, that white is meaning good and black means the devil,
Because he wrote God as a Negro, right?
God as a Negro. In 1895 at the First Baptist Convention. It being an AME bishop, he's invited to give the keynote address where he first articulates God as a Negro. And then he reprints it in 1898 in his Voice of Missions. That's the speech that we have. We don't have his actual sermon where he said that. But this was, in 1893 at the World's Fair, or 93. He had already said that Adam and Eve were black, and then they were the first, people that were black, the first humans were black. So it was just a natural progression for Turner. So he begins to do this kind of race work even before Du Bois, and that's the connection. That's why I want to study Du Bois a little bit more. So I want to see the intersections, because I can't find anywhere. And if anybody out there can help me, please, Facebook or Twitter. I'm at A.E. Johnson, PhD on Twitter, and you can Facebook me. But I'm looking for anyone in the 20th century outside of James Cone who actually gives credit to Bishop Henry McNeil Turner that's doing similar work. Nobody, I have found no one that actually mentions Turner.
Other than Cone.
Other than Cone. Cone does mention Turner when he's doing black theology. That Turner, he's first one that said God is a Negro. But outside of that, Malcolm X, Farrakhan, Stokely Carmichael, anybody in the Nation of Islam, anybody in black nationalism, period. Even somebody who would have should have known about Turner, who did know about Turner, and that's Marcus Garvey, because one of the ladies that worked with Marcus Garvey, I found out, that helped Garvey in his, Turner used to let her write a column. Madame Chanticleer, I think that's how she pronounced it, but used to write a monthly column, and she was from the West Indies, and Turner used to publish her every month in the Voice of Mission, and I have those papers as well. I would love to share that. I would love somebody to just take that and start to do some work.
Tell them where to buy it.
So what you do is you meet all of us at the National Council of Black Studies.
You're gonna have your books.
Right? And so why don't we tell our viewership about some of the stuff that we'll be presenting at the National Council of Black Studies and why they should check us out?
We got a dual panel. We're dealing with male sexuality and hip hop. It's going to be a strange panel, but that panel is really, I guess the focus was going to be on oral sex and how it's been used to be taboo in African American. I don't know why they laughed. I thought these were adults in the audience.
Yeah, but like Christians, but they sexually repressed.
I forgot. It's not sacred. It's sacred.
I'm just playing.
But it's supposed to be dealing with how oral sex was taboo in the black community until certain rappers in really early mid 21st century, probably the last 7-8 years, have really come out and endorsed that. So that's one panel. I'm doing a panel called "Hey Nigger, You Look Like a Nigger," the American Textual Canon's negative depiction of African Americans in mass media, and it's based off of my master's thesis. It's really just dealing with how Ishmael Reed's mumbo jumbo, great intellectual, real prophetic literary man, still alive to this day. So if you know Ishmael Reed get mumbo jumbo, but it deals with how there's a talking android and how there's always a black that's almost groomed to be in a particular position, whether it's a famous writer, a public intellectual, a president of the United States, that they've been groomed and they're a talking android because they're in essence programmed like robotically to say certain things and to adhere to certain agendas. And so I'm looking at particularly mass media as far as great literary works like Mark Twain's Pudd'nhead Wilson all the way to Spike Lee's Bamboozled, and dealing with the black situation comedies from the 50s all the way up to the mid 80s. We go from Beulah, which was like the first Give Me a Break, where you have the black sassy maid that gives all the white people good advice but can't seem to uplift herself out of her situation, all the way to the Cosby Show, where you have black male figures that are almost henpecked, where the black female is emasculating the black male, even for laughs. You have a doctor and you have a lawyer, but there's always, Claire was more so the head of the household. We deal with that with the Jeffersons. You have a successful businessman, but he was smart enough to have those 7 dry cleaners in New York City, yet Wheezy always had to kind of bail him out and give him, a moral compass. So we deal with how blacks are really constructed in the media, whether these are black artists and black writers who are writing about this stuff, or even Jewish, because most of the situation comedies in the 70s were Norman Lear pretty much had that on lock, right? But we also deal with that blacks have bought into the stereotype that maybe we are socially, intellectually, and physically inferior. And so, hey nigger, you look like a nigger. So in essence, you're a nigger because you look like one, your characteristics, your attributes. So we deal with that in this particular piece about African Americans and the mass media, and even if that's what it takes to even be produced and accepted by the black masses. Because in essence, people like us who are considered Afrocentric or go against the grain, you're ostracized, or you're weird to some people because you don't accept the basic stuff that particularly the mass media puts out. And that's why when I really touch on I go from white writers with Mark Twain, the great satirist, right? And you look at that, we deal with Benjamin Franklin in there when he talks about how colored people are inferior and they need those tawny sons of Africa, tawny meaning dark, need to go back. And we deal with David Walker, who in essence he was I think, now that the more I've sat in on your conferences, your lectures on Henry McNeil, David Walker was prophetic like that. David Walker was really your first Marcus Garvey, your first Malcolm X, and he was killed at, I think, I want to say like 26 for having the appeal to the colored citizens of the United States, which is a pamphlet, right? He got it published himself and distributes it to sailors and gets it back down south. So I really just want to deal with, in essence, trying to break down and deconstruct the idea of nigger in general, right? I can call you a nigger, but it's the connotation and those adjectives and those signifiers that go with this word. So that's what that is. It should be good. Check it out.
Yep, NCBS. Dr. Dre, what you doing?
Real quick, I'm doing a piece on what I'm calling Theologian in Chief. examining the religious rhetoric of President Barack Obama, doing Henry McNeil Turner and the Emancipation, also doing a piece on the rhetorical trajectory of the African American prophetic tradition, in which I'm going to locate it in the Black radical tradition. And then we're on a panel together, Loving God, and I just wanted to pull this up, Loving God with Your Heart and Mind, the pastor, preacher, professor paradigm and the Black church experience, in which we would talk about how one navigates being a professor and a pastor, and then, you know, working in the Black church. So looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
Man.
Well, mine's is simple. I'm on the panel, one of his panels. I'm on one here, and then I got this one about where I'm going to try to introduce something that Dr. Andre Johnson and I have talked about. There's a lot of stuff around prophetic rhetoric, but not much around prophetic theology.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try to introduce something with this thing I'm calling something like Pimps, False Prophets, and the Commodification of the Prophetic Tradition. And all I'm going to do in that panel is regurgitate everything you heard us say tonight. So that's it. But
can I say one thing? Because we do have another presenter in this room right now.
One of the G-Life representatives.
One of the students, Kimberly Travers, will be presenting as well too. I just want to give her a round of applause. One of the students submitted.
Tell her to leave that money on the table. Advertise for free on here. Stuff costs.
So she will be there as well too, and hopefully next year that we will have a group, a bevy of students coming from Memphis Theological Seminary. Rose,
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, among other places. Look, you know what time it is. Yeah. I hate that we would have to go. Now it's time to say goodbye
to all my Negro friends.
Right. Okay, so, but look, don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Shout out to the Memphis Theological Seminary, one of my alma maters, and the Rhetoric, Race, and Religion class. Shout out to the Right Reverend Dr. Andre E. Johnson. Check him out at A.E. Johnson, PhD on Twitter, or Andre Johnson on Facebook. Check out the professor at G.E.E. Joyner on Twitter, or G. Joyner on Facebook. Check me out, Earl Fisher on Facebook. www.abcministries1.org. The Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church, 3890 Mill Branch
and
Road.
Rhetoric, Race, and the Religion blog. Just Google that, it'll pop right on up.
Peace to the righteous, as G would say.
Don't steal my shit.
All right. So y'all in the hand.
Real gangsters are. Real gangsters are. Real gangsters are. Real gangsters are. Real gangsters not. Real gangsters not. Real gangsters not. Real gangsters not. Real gangsters. Gangster means organized.